Okay, the next presenter is then Mr. Fernando Moreira. In his presentation, he's going to talk about a blended mobile learning model, context-oriented. We have 20 minutes for presentation and then 20 minutes for questions and debate. Please remember, if you haven't done it before, to to introduce yourself when you make a question. Thank you very much. Fernando? I have to say that Dr. Moreira is Associate Professor at the Universidade Portucalense in Portugal.
Okay. I would like to thank you this invitation to stay with you, and it's an honor to me to participate in this seminar. I'll try to present a project that we have started at this moment at the Universidade Portucalense, when we try to use in our classes mobile learning, but the mobile learning in a special way, not the traditional mobile learning. This is a good question. What is traditional mobile learning, or what is really mobile learning? Because you can, all the teachers and professors in the high school, universities, etc., has the same problem that, okay, it's a new paradigm, so we'll adapt the old paradigm to new paradigm. But you have a lot of problems, because if you look the picture that before my presentations, the school not change and more or less 100 years. It's the problem, it's the same. So you can change not the technology, not the persons, but our attitude to the technology. So my overview, my presentation, I will make a little introduction. What I'm learning, show benefits of using mobile devices. Then I will present blended mobile learning and a set of interesting results from a study, and some preference about what in fact the students want to hearing and listening from mobile learning. Finally, I will present the proposal. As I said, it's an initial proposal that we are working, and maybe next month, January 2011, we'll try to implement this in practice in our classes, but at this moment it's only a project. And next we'll in final considerations that you have until now. So I have a question, and the question is simple, but the answer for me is not simple. What is mobile learning? You can use a lot of definitions. The literature is a lot of definitions, but for me there isn't a definition. So I will try, if technology allowed me, show you a small video, 2 or 3 minutes, that it's for me it's mobile learning. Okay, the question is the same. What is M-learning? At this moment, I think it's not. There is a really definition of what is M-learning. But you have M-learning at this moment, and you can use it and have some benefits to standpoint of students and standpoint of teachers or professors. Firstly, if you observe M-learning from point of the students, there is some questions. There is some that, for instance, focus their learning on areas of weakness. Old students, old classes, better students, bad students. There are students that have some difficulty in this area or in that area. So it's necessary to have some tools that the student can use it to repeat the text, to repeat the exercises, to repeat hearing the concept, to try to understand. Because when we are in the class, all of us already is in the class. So sometimes you think that we understand the concept, but when I go to home and try to study that subject, you make with some doubts about the concept. Try diminishing misunderstanding and, of course, enhanced learning. From the point of view teachers, this is the principal role for me, not only to teach, because in my opinion the teacher, it's a polemic affirmation, but the teacher not teaching nothing, the students learn. If students don't want to learn, the teacher not teach nothing. So in my opinion, the role of the teacher is try to guide the student to the target, but sometimes the student can go to the right, to go to the left, and it's necessary to put him in the order and try to get as much as better they understand the subjects. Try to adapt teaching practice. It's another problem. For instance, in Portugal, we are in a phase that we are try to adopt Bologna process that will change everything in the universities, the way we teach, the way you're learning, what kind of the material you should send to the student, if the classes and the presential classes is necessary or not, what the duration of the presential classes. Everything are in discussion at this moment and is in the phase of implementation of this method. So it's necessary to adapt the teaching practice. And enhanced assessment and feedback. This is the most important thing that we have all the days when we teach or in the school, because the problem is who is the method fair to the assessment. It's impossible to have a method for each student, but we try to get a method that is it's an average to try to all students, better students, medium students, and bad students. All of us have this kind of students. So it's complicated to make the assessment. If you introduce here mobile devices, it's more complicated is the assessment. And another problem is feedback. Old student, when they ask a question, they want to know what is the answer, if it's wrong, if it's right, if it can move forward or not. And of course, enhanced teaching. Some models. The basic model, you have traditional model, classroom learning and online learning, and what you want in our project is the features of blended learning. What is blended learning? I think it's all of you knows what is it, but at this moment they try to use the strengths of the one learning environment to improve the weakness of another learning environment. So try to get some advantage of, for instance, classroom learning and use it in the online learning and vice versa. But what we want here or now, it's introduce the mobile learning, where I will introduce mobile learning. We introduce mobile learning in the intersection of the online learning and the blending learning. Why? Because you have, of course, online learning. We have mobile devices. You can stay in the classroom, in a library, in a lab, in home, everywhere, and you want to use some features about blended learning. When you try to get some classes, or you try to respond some questions in the class, and of course get some materials and some tasks out of the classes. Mobile learning, if designed to form a part of blended, can offer benefits to classroom learners, online learners, and distance learners. Online learners can download resources directly from the university server through a web-based instructional portal, or capture images and learning events into their mobile learning devices. Distance learners can also benefit, as they can text and interact with each other or teacher, and access resource and course contents remotely using their mobile phones. While on the other hand, classroom or traditional learners can share learning contents and resource via Bluetooth, and capture image, text, or even record presentation during their class time. So we try to to use limitations of the mobile devices, like screen resolution, screen size, lifetime batteries, etc., etc., that you can try to think that you should send or some materials, but they have to be in consideration this kind of limitations. So what we need really? We need good pedagogic theory that there isn't at this moment for mobile learning. There is a lot of theories, but the one theory that we should follow in our classes, it's not there. But the most important at this moment is the contents. At this moment, what kind of contents that we have? We have four types: text, video, image, and audio. You can use these contents according to the type of the mobile, or the content according to the device that you are using. If you use a laptop or a PC, you can use every all type of the content. But if you are using mobile devices like iPhone or other, it's complicated to introduce all kind of contents. But the problem and the question is how they should be made available to students. The main problem it's here, because it's necessary to identify precisely the learning context where students are. If students are in school, if students are out of school, if students are traveling between home and school, if students are in a public place, etc., etc. So, and for this consideration, it's understand what is the context, learning context. Learning context, for me, the best definition that I have found is that any information that can be used to characterize the situation of learning entities that are considered relevant to the interaction between a learner and an application. But most important is these three questions: when, where, and why. When, because we need to know when the learning activity is being conducted. For example, in a class, in the weekends, in the holidays, in the morning, etc., etc. Where it's very important because it gives an indication of where the activity is being performed. Thus, there are financial and technological factors that must be taken in consideration, as we'll see next. And the last, why. Why clearly indicates the main purpose of a particular learning activity. Why you should give the text activity, or should give audio activity, or I should give a video activity. To try to see the preference, student preference or youth preference, this number is very, very interesting. This study was conducted by this author, and they try compare the physical activity context versus learning content type. For instance, when students are walking, they prefer audio. When students are stationary, they prefer video, in-group image, and traveling audio. Of course, if you go to outside and you see youth pupil, what you see? Headphones and listening music. Okay, the pupil like to listening music when they are traveling. So it's a good way to, okay, if you want to, or if you like to listening music, why you don't listening a book or a podcast with class material, for instance. This is the main question. More results: place versus learning content. In classroom, they want to see video or watching video. In the labs, images. Library, text or images. Host home, video. Campus, text. And public places, text. For instance, if you use the library as an example, of course the students know the rules, because in the library you can't do noise, so it's preferable to read something or see some pictures. It's easiest than to listening or to see video. Okay, our proposal has three aspects. Firstly, we don't want a model isolated. We want a model integrated with a traditional learning process, a classroom process, a blended model. Why? Because the mobile learning, it's not enough to conduct teaching process during old phases. Yeah, I will explain later what is for me old phases. Then technological problems. As you know, it's different to download content in a network school or to download content in operating telecommunications. Why? Because you have cost associated. If you use 3Gs or something like that from operating telecommunications, it's expensive to the students. And our main proposal, it's to the student, it's free. So we can implement the model, and students don't have pay nothing, only buy, of course, the mobile devices, but not have any costs with telecommunications, telecommunications. So this has associated costs. As I said, download material using this network is very different to perform the same operation using telecom operator. Our proposal is simplest as we have there. Why? Because you want technological problems to be easy to resolve and have a few as possible problem with technology. And why we separate in completely two areas, inside and outside? Because in this way, you can control if students are inside the campus, for instance, or outside the campus. If they are inside the campus, you can ask to them to see a video and answer some questions about this video in mobile devices, and the cost associated is 0. But how can do this? It's very easy, because the students, when go to this model, they want to pre-inscriptions. When we get all the features of the mobile devices, and in special the MAC address. If you have the MAC address, you know what kind of students and login, password, etc. And it's easy to verify if students are connected the device inside the network school or outside network school. But if students want to download video content outside, this is for his own, and the cost is associated with him. Learning context, you have try to keep a rule. All the activities, learning activities, can't during more than 10 minutes. Why? Because the students will distract, and of course the financial costs and features of mobile devices, like in special lifetime battery. Text. What I use text? Text I use to indication of how the theoretical concepts must be studied, practical examples and statements of problems to solve. Image and videos is a set of video tutorials to try to explain some simple concepts. And audio, as I said, you can use the audio to a book or some small podcast that student can listing another the concepts to understand as better as they can. For instance, we'll try to use this in a classroom when we teach algorithms and programming. It's a good question, but how I will teach algorithms and programming with mobile devices? The question is not simple. Why? Because you need a program to write the code, compile the code, run the code, and execute the code. And we try to get results from these kind of exercises. Of course, we don't will use this methodology to teach all the subject about programming. We'll use this model to teach only the first phase of the teaching algorithms and programming. Like I will show you a small video. If you can see that the video have lower than 10 minutes, only 3:34. Why? Because I want to explain the basis. What is a variable? What is a counter? What is a while? What is a for? What is a if? For instance.
What's up, guys? Welcome to your 13th Java tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to do something called a while loop. Now, what a while loop does is it allows you to execute a certain block of code multiple times, but only write it one time. So it pretty much just saves you a bunch of time writing a code. And let me show you what the syntax is for this. The first thing that we need is a variable, and I'm going to name mine counter, and I'm going to set it equal to, let's go ahead and set it equal to 0 to begin with. Now, the syntax for a while loop is just the word while, and this means begin your while loop. And what your while loop is going to do is whatever is in the body of your while loop, or curly braces, it's going to execute this code. And let's go ahead and say system out print line, and let's go ahead and just print the variable counter. Nothing special here. So what this is going to do is it's going to execute this line of code multiple times. So you're saying, alright, how many times is it going to execute? Well, that is up to whatever you put in the condition. So let's write while counter is less than 10, we want you to output counter. So right now, here's what would happen. It says, alright, what's counter? 0, print counter. What's counter? 0, print counter. So this loop would kind of go forever. So we need a way to end the loop somehow. So we need a way to change counter. So let's go ahead and use the incrementing operator that we learned last time, and just put counter plus plus. And let me run this real quick and show you guys what it does. Run, okay. And in our little run box, we get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just what we wanted. Now, let me show you guys one more time what this does. We had a counter variable to begin, and it started at 0. The first time we told while is, alright, while this counter is less than 10, we want you just to write whatever number it is on the screen. So the first time it looped, it was 0, so it outputted 0, and then it added 1 to it, so then it was 1. So now it looked at it again. Is counter less than 10? Yup. Let me put that on screen. Now it's 2. Is counter less than 10? Yup. And it did that again and again until it got to 10. And when it got to 10, is 10 less than 10? Nope. So I'm just going to not do anything. So that's how you use loops to execute a block of code many times without having to write it over and over again. If we didn't have this, we would have to write our print statement 10 times, and as you can see, this saves you a bunch of time. So again, the syntax for a while loop is while, and then put your test condition in what are these called, parentheses, and then put whatever you want to execute in curly braces right here, and whatever you execute is going to do that however many times you say. So that's your quick tutorial on loops. This is a while loop. There are different kinds of loops where I'm going to be probably going over in the next tutorial, but this is your basic while loop. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you test this out a little bit and play around with it, and you'll be an expert in no time. So again, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next tutorial.
Okay, the student can watching this video as much time as they want. So the assessment is done in two ways: theoretical question and the practical issues. I'm sorry, but I will be quick because the time is the finish. So the process, the system proposed a set of exercises about learning activities. We use a random bank of the question because to the both students that are side by side don't see the question with each other. The student submits his solution to the tool associated with classes. At this moment, you have the tool to the algorithm and programming, and you are planned to use another tools in the other classes. Learning content according to context. The students who use M-learning is not stationary, so different learning activities should be conducted at times and in different places. Learning content should be distributed according to the context in which students are. For instance, time of the day, type of the day, mobile devices, communications mode, physical activity, and learning place. So our proposal, you use LMES traditional, open source, and you record all the information that we can when the time, place, and duration the activity to use it to make a good assessment. It's necessary to take in consideration the place, if the students are stationary, if they are walking, travel, or work in groups. Proposal use the Moodle. It's most LMS used in Portugal, and to try to get some extension to the mobile devices, we use Mobile Learning Engine. It's a SourceForge project. It's open. All of this is open source. And application to algorithms and programming. It's a Portuguese application. The name Mushak is a system for managing programming content on the web. This tool, of course, will be adapted to mobile devices because present a lot of information in the screen. Some interfaces, course features, forums and exercises, quizzes, with quizzes open and closed. Why open? If students want to train a lot of times, and close it when they will be assessment. The main application is produced to PCs, so have a lot of information in the interface. We will adapt this interface to only to essential information to the student that they need. Final considerations. A model is proposed which follows the principles of BML with the use of mobile technology, where we're taking account learning content according to context, learning activities log, and delivery schedules. Concern about costs, it's a main concern that we try to as I said, not the student don't have any cost with telecommunications in his learning process, and in future, I hope in January 2011, we implement and test in a given teaching learning context. Some useful references, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Fernando. Okay, so we have time for questions and debate and observations.
I might have skipped this, but I wonder if the mobile learning part is compulsory or not, and if it is, if you don't think it's a little bit intrusive in people's lives.
Yes.
Yes. Well, it is compulsory.
It's compulsory.
And then how do people behave or feel like having all the teachers in their own phone all the time?
No, it's a good question. We don't have any results now from the students. We'll try to implement this, as I said, in January, and it's only after that I can answer this question.
Hi, I'm Julia Minguillon. I'm the academic director of the UNESCO Chair in Learning at work. Well, it's really interesting because as a computer scientist, I'm glad to see that you are using these kind of technologies for teaching programming. Is actually what I am teaching at the university. So it's not that just you need a screen, but my feeling is that what you did is allow that your users access the content through a mobile device. I mean, because you're using complex mobile devices and you can have a video or they have access to YouTube, then you can do what you are already doing using a laptop. So my question is, what is the added value of the mobile experience? Just that learning anytime, anywhere? Or, I mean, you said that you are recording time, place, and the duration of the connections of the students to the system, but are you using this information in order to see if they are really taking advantage of the mobile device? Thank you.
Okay, we try to store all this information. It's a way that you have to understand if the students are to work more than they sometimes work. Your question is interesting because about the complexity of the contents at this moment, video, for instance. But you have the possibility, if you don't have access by the mobile devices, you can do the same activity in a laptop or in a PC. So, as I said initially, it's not a model itself. It's a model integrated with the traditional model, because I don't believe in the mobile learning activities itself, because you have a lot of limitation in the technological limitations. Answer your question? Or?
I was glad to hear this answer from you, because I was wondering two different things. First, if your project assumes that every student has an intelligent mobile phone that allows for web browsing, which I can guess it's not compulsory indeed, because they can access. So this is another layer in the whole learning system. So I do understand that. And as well, regarding to the cost of connections for students. So I think it's important to know that they can just connect from other points. And the other one is that I will be very happy to see your final results regarding the places where students connect to these materials, because usually, even though we know that there are a lot of people just hearing music on the street when on the move, but one of the amazing results of studying mobile technologies, mobile telephony indeed, is that we usually use cell phones from fixed places. So for sure we have conversations on our mobile phones when we are in the street. But usually we wait until we arrive home or until we get to the office, and then we call. So the point is that for sure there are mobile devices that are mainly personal and they are attached to us, but we don't tend to use that much when we are on the move. So it would be very nice to see these results at the end. So.
Okay, maybe next year.
I'm not sure if the previous question was asking a question about the difference between how people use mobiles in their private lives or social lives and how you're expecting them to use them for educational purposes. And I think the previous questioner was maybe pointing to a dichotomy that actually people in their private and social lives use mobiles in a very kind of lightweight, spontaneous, opportunistic way, probably kind of interwoven into lots of other things, you know, socializing, talking, maybe having face-to-face conversations at the same time as having mobile phone conversations, maybe checking something on their phone whilst having face-to-face conversations. But it sounded as though your expectation for teaching purposes was that they'd use a mobile phone like a small computer, that you'd be that you couldn't use your material opportunistically or spontaneously. You'd have to be, there'd be an overhead. You'd have to have, you know, there'd be a context switch, to use a computing term, of switching from the context of being a social being with a mobile phone to the context of being a student who has to devote all of their time to go into that PC-like world of a kind of dedicated one-to-one relationship with the computer or phone, in order to then engage in something substantial. I mean, I couldn't have assimilated the discussion of while loops in the ways that are comparable to other ways in which I use a mobile phone. You know, within 5 seconds, it would have lost me.
Okay, but for this model, the students are they decide if they want to entering in this model or not. So if they decide to entering, you have a scheduling of tasks, and student know that in that time they should listening the podcast or watching the video and answer the question. It's not sometimes students will switch off to the music or to the video. No, it's not our proposal, of course. But I understand your question.
Hi, I'm Michelle Courtwright from Mother Tongue. I was curious to know if the content that you used for the different courses was self-generated, or was it available free, available by payment? What sort of content did you find or did you use?
Okay, the content that I use, for instance, in the example, it's a YouTube video that you use. But our idea it's to produce the content to our students.
Hello. Hello. Thank you. My question is regarding, let's try to make just an exercise of imagining that we don't have worries with the cost, and that we can have all the students with the best devices and, with the best connections. And or maybe if we can make it compulsory, that they just can study in our schools if they have that, or somehow we provide them the solution for them to have that. But in that situation, would be possible, for example, I don't know, in this model, to make them compulsorily have softwares like, just like they have today, but like Twitter and all sorts of Facebook and etc. Maybe in the sense that they should have as a compulsory task of them to interact with the professor and vice versa through this way. Is that
possible?
Is that a way on which this model can be?
Yes, if the students assume that can pay the costs, it's possible, of course.
I mean, it's possible to make it compulsory for the professor and the student? I mean, a kind of a contract, of course, where they have to be connected.
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to go back to this question again because I think it's a very good one. You said that you are using an LMS for analyzing interactions of users with systems, but if you are trying to promote the use of mobile devices, maybe what you don't need is an LMS. Maybe you need a social network on top of your resources and then allow your users to interact and maybe, I wouldn't say informally, but not that logging into a system. So, because it's like, at least in my opinion, is somehow contradictory to have a device that allows you learning anytime, anywhere, but it obliges you to go to a specific place for doing so. So have you considered this idea, or well, maybe you can do it, about maybe not using an LMS for registering everything, but allowing your users to create their own networks using Facebook or whatever?
It's a possible. The project is in the beginning, and everything it's possible after now. Firstly, we would like to try and to receive feedback from students and try improve, maybe to use for instance a social network and adapt them to this kind of project.
Thank you.
If you want, no more questions? Okay, the last one, I think. The closing, okay.
Well, it's just a consideration, a very practical consideration about the use of video. I don't really know how are the infrastructures in Portugal, but for example, I own a cell phone which is a smartphone, but it's like a standard smartphone. And when I watch a video, I'm spending like a 3 minutes video. I'm spending like 5 megabytes of my 300 megabytes monthly plan, and I'm also spending like 3% of my battery. So if I'm, for example, let's say it's Friday evening and I'm at a bar, I will really think about it, checking videos and checking especially a lot of videos, because I will lose my battery and I will lose a lot of more things. No? So it's just that I think that sometimes we are probably too idealistic or too optimistic with the use of smartphones. But especially with the medias like video, there's a lot of considerations that users are going to take into account, and maybe we are not taking that much.
Okay. Thank you again, Fernando, and thank you for the participation. Thank you.